Hello and welcome to Draw and Talk, the internet audio visual podcast slash YouTube video slash art video where we draw and talk. Now, hopefully this is going to be the first official episode of Draw and Talk. My name is Eris. You can also call me Terry if you'd like. Now, what I am going to talk about first is what Draw and Talk is about. And you can see I've got Crash Bandicoot here, and I am going to talk while I draw this Crash Bandicoot. But last time I tried to do a draw and talk, something quite tragic happened. In that I recorded a 1 hour 30-minute episode of this show, Draw and Talk, and the entire time Spotify was playing in the background, which made it entirely unusable. So this time I've made sure I think Spotify's open. God, it actually is. It's open. Nothing's playing, but it is actually open. I'm glad I checked that. I muted desktop audio. Desktop audio was not muted. And I had my headphones off, so I didn't hear it. It was just going the entire time. The entire time it was just going. And I didn't hear it, and it was quite upsetting, honestly. But I had so many great hot takes. The episode was about cats. The whole episode was just about cats. I had so many great, hot takes going. Just so many of them. About Bingus and Big Flopper and Jackson Galaxy, all the things people who love cats care about, I had this amazing episode, and it's completely unusable because there's just audio going on in the background. Now, I will say, the song Perfect Exceeder? Okay, it's the one that goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me hear you scream if you want some more. You know that song? Well, that was going on while I was talking about Big Flopper, and it added quite because I went and I watched it back after I'd realised the horrendous mistake I made. It did add such a strange atmosphere. I do think I want to add some music that maybe I've made to this not podcast. In fact, I think I will experiment with that. I'm gonna go back in, put this in a video editor, put some music I've made on in the background. Hopefully you're hearing that right now. But yeah, the whole idea of this not podcast, I don't know what to call it. It's Draw and Talk, that's what it is I use the flow state that I, as an artist, get from drawing to empower myself to talk to people on the internet. So whoever you are, if you are listening, then I am using the flow state I am getting, the concentrated flow state I'm getting from drawing Crash Bandicoot's ear, to talk to you about stuff that would otherwise be quite hard to talk about. So, what did I want to talk about? Because I have some notes here. Let's have a look at my notes. Oh, now, that's what we call a fucky wucky. Sorry about that. Right, I wanted to talk about Crash on the Run. That's why we're drawing Crash Bandicoot here. It's because I wanted to talk about Crash on the Run. And what is Crash on the Run? It's a new mobile game based on the iconic, beloved character of Crash Bandicoot. Now, I'm questioning here, because I feel like I'm not explaining Drawn Talk very well. Drawn Talk is not about the drawn. Like, the drawn might come into it at certain points, but it's not about the drawn. Like, you don't have to be looking at the drawn. Like, you can put this on in the background. Like, just have it on in the screen in the background, or listen to it while you play something like Crash on the Run, which is what I'd recommend. I'd say this episode of Drawn Talk is especially made for people who want to play Crash on the Run while they listen to Drawn Talk. This episode is for you. This inaugural, is that correct? Inaugural? This inaugural episode of Drawn Talk is for you. Because that's what I do. I like to listen to podcasts and stuff like that while I play Crash on the Run. Because it's quite a grindy game, but I enjoy that about it. Basically, it's just a Crash Bandicoot Infinite Runner, so Crash Bandicoot Temple Run kind of thing. I actually haven't played a Temple Run, but whenever I'm talking to anyone about Crash on the Run and I say, oh, it's like Temple Run, they suddenly know what I'm talking about, so I feel like that's necessary to say. That's what Crash on the Run is. It's Temple Run, but with Crash Bandicoot in it, and I'm really enjoying it. You've got like a few different ways to engage with Crash on the Run, and the main thing that you're going to be spending bulk of your time, unless you're a huge whale and you buy all the resources, what you're going to be doing most of your time playing Crash on the Run is doing these, what are they called? I think they're called resource runs or gathering runs. But you're most likely gonna be doing these gathering runs a lot, and they're fairly easy. There is challenge in the game. There is challenge in Crash on the Run. If you want a challenging game, there are aspects of Crash on the Run that will fulfill that for you. But it's not going to be these resource gathering runs. These are like the easy content. It's the kind of content that you just kind of twiddle with. It's like stimming. Which, if you don't know what stimming is, it's this self sort of stimulation behavior common in autistic people like myself. Non-autistic people also stim. It's universal. Everyone stims, but it is especially prevalent and very necessary for autistic people. But that's what I enjoy about the game. It's like a fun way for me to stim those resource runs and like listen to something. But that's the great thing about Crash on the Run. I should explain why I'm drawing this, by the way. It is inspired by Crash on the Run because he's going on a little walk. No, I was going to draw him running, but, it was a bit difficult. He's very difficult to draw. Crash Bandicoot's very difficult to draw. It took me quite a while to actually make a somewhat half-decent drawing of Crash Bandicoot. It took quite a while. Oof. but he's meant to be drinking a Wumpa fruit flavoured monster because, he's going on so many runs, all these collection runs, these battle runs, survival runs, whatever. He needs the Boost. Which is interesting because Boost is a different brand of energy drink, which kind of tastes like bubblegum. I quite like it. Actually prefer it to Monster in a lot of ways, but I don't really drink that many energy drinks anymore. But Boost was always quite nice, and it is trans culture. I'm declaring right now that Boost is trans culture. I mean, Boost tastes how the trans flag would taste. Just the normal flavour of Boost tastes like that. Like if you look at the trans flag and you're like, how would that taste? That's what Boost tastes like. It's bubblegum, but it also has that kind of just energy drink kind of flavour. It's nice aftertaste. It's a very interesting flavour, but it is trans flag flavour. Now I'd love if someone was listening to this. Am I recording? Sorry, I'm so anxious. Yeah, I'm recording. Thank God. I'd love if somebody listens to this and they send me like a photoshopped or a drawn or a piece of art with Boosts with like the trans flag on it, because that is like my mood right now. It's my mood right now. Lassies, lads and laddins. Like this. Sorry. Lad. Like that. Cause I don't know what's the gender neutral one. I said this in the podcast that got ruined as well, so I get to recycle that. What's the gender neutral of lads and lassies? The non-binary one, so we can be inclusive to NBs and just people outside of lads and lassies in general. Okay. I'm just kind of drawing all the little bits of hair first. Now, this episode of Draw and Talk is about social media. I feel like I need to talk a little bit more about Crash on the Run first, just because I'm drawing Crash Bandicoot, so that kind of is a bit necessary. What else can I say about Crash on the Run? There's some cool skins. It is microtransaction-y, which I don't like, but I feel like they should have had more confidence in Crash on the Run. Because you can tell they're just trying to make loads of money off of it. I mean, they deserve to make money off of it, but, like, I wish there was an option that you could, like, pay a certain amount for a version of Crash on the Run that doesn't have advertising in it. Like, it gives you, because it has, like, watch this ad and we'll double your Wumpa fruit, your collection. And, like, I end up watching the ad, which I don't mind that much. I want the people making Crash on the Run to make money, but I would probably pay for, like, a version without that. Like, I absolutely would. And I think they think their game isn't good enough for that. But it is the kind of game I would just spend money on. Like, up front, I would have just bought it up front. It's free to play. I would have just bought it up front. And I'm struggling drawing Crash Bandicoot's hair. I'm absolutely struggling drawing Crash Bandicoot's hair. Like, I can't even draw Crash Bandicoot, and they made a whole game about him that you can play on your phone. Yeah, of course I'm gonna spend money on that. Of course I am. Anything else I could say about Crash on the Run? It's fun. Maybe Temple Run is better. I haven't played Temple Run, but one thing Temple Run probably doesn't have, correct me if I'm wrong, is Crash Bandicoot in it, which I like Crash Bandicoot a lot. I've a lot of nostalgia for Crash Bandicoot. I played the PS1 games as a child. A lot of nostalgia there. But right, let's get into the nitty gritty. We're gonna be talking about social media. Social media. What can I say about social media? I've been using the internet from quite a young age, and the internet has always been sort of my escape. When I was very young, it was my escape from a world that I felt like did not understand me. Although my first, now this isn't something I wrote down in my notes, but this is definitely something I should talk about. My first exposure to social media and the internet really was Bebo. We didn't even have a computer. Now, as I was saying, Bebo, my first real exposure to was Bebo my first exposure to Crash Bandicoot? Like, is that a Freudian slip? Bebo, my first exposure to the internet and social media. I was a tween, a child, and the teenagers, my older sister and her friends, they would go into this internet cafe. Like, it's mad to think of it now. I shouldn't say mad, because that's ableist. Is it ableist? I don't even know, but I think it is. You should say bizarre. I think that's okay. I'm trying to remove ableist language from my words, but right. You'd have all these little CRTs, these big honking desktops, and you'd pay for a certain amount of time on the computer, and they would just pay to go on to Bebo. And it's bizarre because they'd pay to go on to Bebo to talk to people that they see every day in real life. Like on Facebook, I have loads of people on Facebook that, I really wouldn't be able to talk to otherwise, but the mad thing is that this was a new thing, so all the people on your Bebo, they tended to be people you just knew in real life, and so this was just kind of like a little accessory to it was a novelty. It was not useful. It really wasn't useful. But Bebo's very interesting. I think it was the Irish MySpace. Like, Americans had MySpace. We had Bebo. I don't think we ever used MySpace. But Bebo was just as much of a lawless wasteland as MySpace was, from what I can tell. Like, these kind of custom skins you'd put on it as well, stuff like that. Bebo. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to doing drawn talk, so I keep losing my train of thought. I have notes there, but it takes me a while to get warmed up and to talk about what I want to talk about. Because I wasn't even planning on talking about Bebo, but I think Bebo's really important to talk about. Because you'd have love on Bebo. Like, literally, you'd have love. There was this way you could give people love, and it was very coveted. Like, it was platonic as well, it seemed like my sister would always be like, "Oh, can you give me love?" It was It was clout. Love was clout because you could only give one love to one person a day. So it was a scarce resource, and if you had loads of people that were giving you their love on the reg, people knew that you were somebody. I remember my Bebo page did not have a lot of love. I wasn't a very popular person. But that's bizarre. Those are the weird things that seem so vestigial, but they're also kind of fun, like 5 stars on YouTube. Like, bring that back. These weird sort of... The internet, like, we've kind of figured out what we're doing with the internet, kind of. So, like, we're kind of, likes, reblog, retweet, There's not any fun anymore. There's not like, I dig this, like Digger? Like, I dig this. There's nothing like that on brand anymore. Like, Twitter and Google and all that, like, these things are so big now, those have become verbs in the global lexicon. Like, tweet that. It's a verb. Like, Google that. It's a verb. It sounds like maybe 20 years ago, Google that would be a fun, interesting thing to say. But it's not fun and interesting anymore. It sounds like, you want me to Google that? Like, can you not just tell me what's in your brain? And that's another good thing about Draw and Talk, is that I don't Google anything. And I do wanna do more research, like, especially as, like, I kind of run out of interesting things to say from my own experience. But that's a cool thing. You just have, like, hearing me stumble and not really know what I'm talking about. Which I don't know if that's any good. Maybe that's not good. But the thing about Draw and Talk is that it's evolving. The first episode of Draw and Talk, the last episode that nobody will ever be able to see, that had copyrighted music in it. And this episode of Draw and Talk hopefully has non-copyrighted music in it. Occasionally. Well, is it copyrighted? Is it my copy? Like, I don't think I've copyrighted my music. Like, if somebody put my music in their video, I wouldn't really mind, as long as they aren't saying, this is my music, I made this. Like, I wouldn't really mind that at all. Like, you do whatever you want with it. Use my music. I think I find it very flattering, if somebody made sort of remix culture sort of stuff out of my art. I think I'd love that, like, whether it's my drawings or my music or this. Somebody went and they turned it into something else. They made a little YouTube poop out of it. They took one of my art and they made it like all glitchy. They messed around with the colours or something. Like, I think I find that really flattering. Most artists on DeviantArt and stuff are like, don't steal my stuff, And it's like, no one's ever stolen any of my stuff, and I've never... Like, I know art theft is the thing. Maybe my art just isn't good enough to get stolen, or maybe it has been stolen and I've just never seen it. But, like, I think when you say don't steal my art, maybe people want to steal it just out of spite. Maybe they're like, they said I can't do this, so I have to steal it now. Maybe it's a paradox. Like, if you say don't steal my art, people will steal it. If you don't say anything about it, people don't see that as a threat. They say, this person, they don't care if I steal their art, so I guess I won't. Like, I wonder if that's the thing. I wonder if that's the thing. But I love remix culture, but drawn talk is an evolving art form, and if there's something about these episodes that is genuinely not something that I enjoy, or not something the people who are watching this enjoy, we can change that. I think a lot of really great shows and stuff like rarely hit their stride until like after the first few episodes, like the pilot is so rarely the best episode of any given show, or like just anything, as something goes on, you kind of figure it out a bit. Like, I think it kind of, like, the first few episodes, like, sometimes they're brilliant in some shows, and sometimes they're kind of mediocre, and then, like, a few episodes in, or 1 or 2 seasons in, that's when most shows are, like, at their peak, and then a few seasons after that, it usually starts to decline. Like seasonal rot. I don't know. I wonder why seasonal rot happens. Like, has anyone ever thought about that? Is it just, do people just get lazy? Anyways, let's talk a bit more about social media. I'm quite prone to social media addiction. So I don't use a lot of social media. I don't use Twitter. I don't use Tumblr. I use YouTube, obviously, because you're probably watching this on YouTube. I use Facebook, because my family's on Facebook. And because I don't actually hate Facebook that much. I'll talk a bit more about this in a bit, but I don't actually hate Facebook that much. What else do I use? I have an email. I read the news. That's about it. I don't think I use any other social media. But I don't think I've ever really used Twitter extensively. But there was a point in my life where I was quite addicted to this website calling it a website is, this is where it gets complicated. It's called Mastodon. You might have heard it. It's like a Twitter alternative. It's federated. So what Mastodon is, it's like a bunch of nerds making their own little website, their own little Twitter, and using that, and it, like, they're all like instances or servers, and they all kind of connect with each other. And you got Mastodon. You also have this thing called Pleroma, and they can interact with each other, and they call it the Fediverse because it's federated. I hope that's a succinct explanation. I mean, if you're a nerd, you probably don't think that's good enough. Also, I wish I made the line art thicker on this. Like, this is 50. I wish maybe like 70 would have been nicer for this, but it's in the past now. It's a thin line, boy. Mastodon. I got quite addicted to Mastodon. I had 2 different times I was on Mastodon. Maybe 3 different times, maybe. Because I had like one that was more of a personal account, and then one that was more just art kind of stuff. But I got quite addicted to Mastodon. Because it gives you the rush that you want. The rush of people seeing your stuff and connecting with you that most social media just can't do anymore, because it's full of like celebrities and stuff, And when it's fun with celebrities instead of normal people, it's very easy for people to ignore you. But Mastodon, it gave me that rush because people were actually interacting with my content. People were favouring my stuff. People were boosting my stuff, which I believe is what they called it on Mastodon. A retweet was a boost. But Mastodon was not a great environment for me. I did meet 2 very good friends off of Mastodon. They might be listening to this because I sent it to them. I did meet 2 very good friends that I still talk to this day, so I have to thank Mastodon for that. Like, it's the only social network I was ever able to meet anyone on that I still actually talk to. So I have to thank Mastodon for that. But in general, it wasn't a great environment for me. There is a lot of trans women on Mastodon. I don't know why that is. But when I was using it, there was a lot of trans women, which is actually a great thing. But the reason why that was difficult for me is because I'm a trans man. And some, trans feminine people, some of them. Now, I say most trans feminine people are, such wonderful, amazing allies to trans men. So many of them. Just wonderful, saying stuff that, using the visibility that the trans feminine community has to raise awareness of some of the stuff trans men deal with. That's wonderful. But it was very hard for me. Because, this is a personal space. It's a very personal space, Mastodon, because it allows quite adult content. So it was quite difficult for me because people would be saying stuff that was quite hurtful to me and not realise why it might be hurtful to me. A lot of stuff I don't really want to go into it too much about what kind of stuff would kind of be triggering to my dysphoria and low self-esteem, but there was a lot of that kind of stuff on Mastodon. And there wasn't a lot of trans men on Mastodon, despite there being a lot of trans people in general. It might have changed. It's been at least a year, maybe 2 years since I've been on it. It might have changed, which would be great because it's better than Twitter at the very least. But the demographics were quite heavily skewed towards a certain type of person. I was very aware that I was not that certain type of person. Very aware of that. And in a way that was kind of empowering because I drew a lot of... If you are familiar with my art, if you look at my DeviantArt, I draw a lot of very personal stuff about my identity as a trans man. So it was kind of empowering to be able to put that in that space, where that isn't really a thing, and receive that support. It was, there was good things about it. But it did take a toll on my mental health at the end of the day, and I might not be able to articulate that as well as I want, because I don't want this episode of Draw and Talk to be that intimate. I don't want it to go that route. I don't want to get to what happened and what my deal is with that, because there's plenty of episodes for me to just say up front, this is going to be a heavy episode. I don't want this episode to be too heavy. That said, I am going to be talking a bit more about things that have happened to me on social media that weren't pleasant, but nothing as heavy as what I've implied here. Like, it's quite heavy stuff. It's quite heavy stuff. But it gives you a rush to be able to actually interact with people, have people actually interact with your posts. And in the end of the day, that was not great for me, because I was constantly checking Mastodon. I was constantly checking it. And this was like in 2019, I think. And then I went into 2020 with no social media, because of my tendency to use it as a way to kind of feel bad about myself. Then I got a Tumblr. Now, I've been on Tumblr for a very long time. I got on Tumblr in 2012, and then I left Tumblr in 2015, thereabouts. So I'm very well aware of the history of the website. Very, very strange website. Very, very strange website. And we'll talk a little bit about Tumblr. But I got back on Tumblr, and I actually got in a fight on Tumblr. It was very hard to talk about all this without going into like the sort of insecurities I have, and how they kind of come out, and they came out through social media. Like, I'm trying to just explain them on their own without giving too much context, and I'll see how successful I can be with that, because this I'm drawing Crash Bandicoot. I don't want this to be upsetting. But I got in a fight with another trans man on Tumblr, because I think he said, let me try to remember, because I don't want to misrepresent whatever he was saying, but he said something like, trans men, just because you have dysphoria doesn't mean you can be misogynistic, doesn't mean it's not an excuse to be horrible to women. Something like that, right? Which, fair. Now, I think that is fair to say. There's a few issues I had with the way they said it, though, because the way they said it kind of implied that trans men have some sort of special way that cis men don't have to be horrible to women and to be uniquely misogynistic, which I think gets into some quite bad territory. Like, if you follow that rabbit hole down enough, you probably get to that sort of turf idea of trans men being gender traitors or whatever the hell kind of thing that is. But that's why it kind of set alarm bells off in me. And that was the first thing I brought up with them, is that is quite a toxic idea. Like, absolutely make posts about how trans men should be aware of misogyny in our community, but don't act as if it's some sort of special, unique thing that only trans men have, because I said to them, cis men have no problem being misogynistic without gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is not something that causes misogyny, I would say. And I think it's quite hurtful to people that experience a lot of gender dysphoria to say that. And this person said, oh, I'm not saying that, which is good. I'm glad that they're not saying that. They're just saying there's just a lot of misogyny in the trans male community, so we gotta combat that. They said it, but the other problem with their posts is they said it in a very condescending way. A lot of, the kind of ooh friendly reminder, passive aggressive sort of way. Which is what ticked me off and made me kind of realise that this person isn't really being genuine. Like, their concern does not feel genuine. Like, maybe it is. Maybe they're using that sort of language, that provocative sort of language, to get a response and get shared. And maybe they do genuinely want that message spread. Like, but it did not come across as genuine. It came across as condescending, mean for no reason. Because trans men need more solidarity, lads. We really do. We aren't nice to each other sometimes, and we really need to be, because it's hard. It's really hard, like, living in this world and dealing with dysphoria, and it's hard. And this interaction I had with this person, God, I don't wanna get heavy, but I guess we kind of have to for some of this, because social media is quite a heavy topic for me. I didn't realise how heavy it was going to be to talk about this. Oh, I'm going to try and crash Bandicoot. But this person, they didn't treat me. I didn't treat them with respect either, but they didn't treat me with respect, and I'd say they didn't treat their own community with respect with what they were saying. Now, if I wasn't in such a bad mood that day, I wouldn't have responded to their post. I would have just left them alone. But I was in a really bad mood. I was dealing with a lot of dysphoria, a lot of like mentally unwell feelings, which made me respond to this person's post, This person that, like, really, in the grand scheme of things, I'm probably never going to see them again, or even see that sentiment again. It's just some random person, like a post with less than 1,000 notes, which isn't that much on Tumblr, just a random person. And I'm getting all riled up about it for no reason. And that's what social media does to me. Like, some people are able to moderate their social media use and not get all angry and not take out whatever feelings they've been feeling during the day on social media, but I'm not able to do that. And that's an example of me not being able to do that. And social media, this is a good segue to talk about how social media sort of conditions us, especially stuff like Twitter, conditions us to talk in a condescending and rude way, because it is what will get a reaction out of people. And I think it's as simple as that. That's what gets the most views. It's just creates such a toxic and unwelcoming environment. And I mean, I think it can be fun. I think it can be fun to go onto Twitter and see all these spicy takes that, set off all these things in your brain. I'm sure that's like I've experienced that, it's a feeling of just pure engagement. And feeling like you're a part of something as well. Even if it's just an illusion. That's what social media is great at. And some people can moderate that, I'm sure. But too much social media is unhealthy for people like me, especially. Let me think of something lighter to talk about. Okay. Well, here's something kind of funny. Now, Mastodon was quite an insular community. And there were a lot of memes on Mastodon that didn't really make it outside of Mastodon. And an example of one of these memes is the Coochie Elf. And all it was somebody made a post that said, "This is how white boys eat the coochie." And it is like, it's an elf, right? It's a Christmas kind of elf. Christmas toy. Kind of one of those, novelty Christmas things. And the elf screams, "Merry Christmas." And it kind of like, it laughs and it trashes about, and its hands, like, it's like doing like a little peekaboo motion with its face and its mouth, and it goes "Merry Christmas." It keeps screaming "Merry Christmas" over and over in this very high-pitched voice. And this was all over Mastodon. And it was very funny. Right, I think this is how white boys eat the coochie, and it's just a very happy elf excited about Christmas and imagining that as coochie eating. And I hope that's not too not safe for work, but I mean, I don't really like talking about that kind of stuff, that kind of not safe for work stuff, and I feel totally comfortable talking about Coochie Elf because it's pure silliness. So hopefully that doesn't make other people feel uncomfortable as well. Anyways, I will put like content warnings in the description or wherever. But that was something funny, and I love how that did not seem to make it outside of Mastodon. I do wonder if that is still a meme on Mastodon. If the Coochie Elf is still around, like, is it seasonal? Does the Coochie Elf come back at Christmas only? Or has the Coochie Elf been forever forgotten? If you're on Mastodon, please let me know. God. Let's see what else we can talk about. Let's see how far we're into this. 49 minutes, and I haven't even finished doing the line art on Bandicoot here. A lot of my notes is kind of upsetting stuff that's happened to me, which I think warrants me talking about it in a meta capacity, because for some reason I thought drawing Crash Bandicoot and talking about social media, which is quite heavy, was appropriate, and I don't know why. I don't know why that's appropriate, because I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think talking about Crash Bandicoot is appropriate. Even talking about Crash Bandicoot and Coochie Elf in the same sentence feels so wrong. I feel like I've kind of disgraced Crash Bandicoot a little bit. Not that much though, just a little bit. One thing I will say about Crash Bandicoot is that he's got a little wallet chain, and it's based on a McElroy bit that my boyfriend showed me. They talk about how they feel like he would have a wallet chain, so that is a little homage to that, to the wallet chainery of Crash Bandicoot. I'm thinking about how much stream of consciousness do I want Draw and Talk to be, because I have a few like notes, and like I mean, it's all stream of consciousness. Some of it is just slightly more structured stream of consciousness. Some of it is just, I just have these moments where something weird enters my head and I say it. And that's quite interesting. Like, should I keep that? Should it be exclusively weird things that enter my head that I say? I don't know. This is what we're gonna figure out. I think I'll go back to Tumblr, because there is a lot to talk about with Tumblr, because I talked about my experience on Tumblr in 2020. Now 2020 Tumblr is very different from Tumblr in 2012. I got very into Homestuck. Very, very into Homestuck. And it was a huge fluke that I got into Homestuck. Now, if you don't know what Homestuck is, it's a very strange webcomic. It's multimedia sort of webcomic created by Andrew Hussey. And it's very symbolic of the internet culture at the time. It has a lot of LGB characters. I'm not sure about T. Don't know if it has any T characters. I have not read the end of Homestuck. I have not. Like, I've spent so much of my years have been lost to Homestuck, and I haven't even read the end of it. I think I'm scared to read the end of Homestuck. Like, I think I'd feel grief if I read the end of Homestuck. Like, feeling like I always have the end of Homestuck there to be read is strangely comforting. But maybe me not reading Homestuck is holding me back. Because, you know, maybe if I read the end of Homestuck, I'd be able to move on with my life. Maybe that's like the thing that's stopping me from truly living my life to the fullest. It could be Homestuck. Now, I'm starting to get a bit of a headache, but I'm still doing Draw and Talk. You see, is Draw and Talk a journey? Should it feel like a journey that you go on with me? Or should it feel like a journey that I take you on? Because right now, it's feeling like a journey that you go on with me. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Are you playing Crash on the Run right now? Because if you are, then fair play. That's why I asked. I think Crash Bandicoot has quite nice shoes. These shoes are like, because there's a couple of different Crash Bandicoots and like different designs, interpretations of Crash Bandicoot, and my interpretation's kind of a mixture of a couple of those ideas, a couple of those schools of thought. I've combined them to create my own original sort of Crash Bandicoot. I think it's good to talk about how the reason that Draw and Talk can even exist is because once I do a sketch, like doing the actual art, the actual line art, and the colouring, it comes to me very naturally. Like, you'd think these would be the hardest part. Like, for some people they probably are, but not for me. Not for me. For me, the hardest part is always doing the sketch, because the sketch is where you have to think. The sketch is really just giving your brain instructions to actually go and put in the hours to complete the drawing, which is very interesting. Because that's how it works for me. I don't know if it works like that for other people. Now, I might be talking about social media a lot less than I wanted to talk about. And I think that's because it's a very heavy topic. I'm starting to think maybe I do a social media part 2. Because I had a few... I went into it a little bit when I was talking about Mastodon and what the kind of demographics of Mastodon were. And I hope that didn't come off in bad taste. Because, like, I think it's... I keep being worried that might have come off in bad taste. Like me saying, oh, all these trans women on Mastodon, isn't that terrible? No, it's wonderful. But it's also quite alienating for me. Which is... like, it's a personal problem. Not a problem. And I talked about it a little bit with... My cat likes to do this thing where he scratches at the cupboard. Is it a cupboard? It's just a bedside locker besides the door to go out. He doesn't ask to go out. He does something that he knows that I see as misbehaviour and uses that as a shortcut to get out. So I'm gonna go let him out. I think doing draw and talk streams is probably a good idea as well. Just because, you know, I could actively get stuff to talk about from the people in chat. But another thing I was talking about is like that conversation I had with that trans guy on Tumblr. And like the kind of emotions I was going through, like that's difficult to talk about. And that, I'd say, is probably one of the lighter things to talk about. I did delete my Tumblr. I did delete it because of moments like that. And just the website is just quite toxic. Tumblr's always had its problems, but now it's just completely hostile to me. Just completely hostile. And I think something that I should talk about that maybe isn't necessarily social media. I touched on it a little bit earlier. But how the internet used to be my safe space. It really was. I used to love internet memes. I still do love internet memes, but you know, back then memes lasted quite a while. You know, they didn't just last a week and then get burnt out. Back then, a meme would make it through a long period of time. Okay, I actually took a little break because of my headache, but I'm back and I'm ready to draw more Crash Bandicoot and talk about old internet memes. So let's do that. Well, let me think. What kind of memes did I really enjoy? I enjoyed the advice animals. I enjoyed Courage Wolf. I liked the meme where it was the unhelpful teacher or something. That was a really funny one. Back in the day, I was just the perfect age for that, where I'd experience that type of tomfoolery from teachers in my life. What other memes were great? All your base are belong to us. Of course, that's a classic, isn't it? I think the Battletoads meme was quite funny as well. I quite enjoyed that one. Just the idea of calling GameStop and requesting a game that, like a really old game that they wouldn't have, is very funny. And they did like make a new Battletoads. I mean, it looks fun. I don't know. I never played Battletoads, but the new one looks fun. Co-op. Play that with a friend. That seems fun. Battletoads review coming soon. You may or may not know about any of these memes I'm talking about, and that's fair. Because some of these are quite obscure, some of them aren't as much. But I was kind of hoping to talk about how the internet's kind of gone from my safe space, like the space I went to unwind, to escape, to the internet being the thing I want to escape. It's very interesting, especially with the pandemic. You know, more and more the internet is less the place I go to escape reality, and more the place reality goes to catch up with me. But there was a point when I was very, very young, much younger, where the internet was my savior because it was full of weird nerds like me. I was a weird nerd. It was full of just a lot of weird nerds. There were always trolls. There were always bigoted people. There was always bigoted people. I did get cyberbullied a bit. I was gonna say trolled, and I think the people who were cyberbullying me would fancy themselves as trolls, but it was cyberbullying. They said some very horrible things to me because I've always been making videos. I've always been putting what I do up online. Well, yeah, that was no good. There was this person, I remember them very clearly. They were called the Disembodied Voice. And I was very open about having Asperger's, about being autistic. And they would call me, like, many anti-autistic slurs. Like, they had an obsession with it. And, like, I can look back on that and say, that's so sad. That is so incredibly sad that someone gets some sort of fulfillment out of bullying a child on the internet, an autistic child on the internet. They get some sort of weird fulfillment out of that. That is so sad. They must be lacking something in their lives to have to do that. I can look back on that and say that. But I mean, at the time, you don't really think of that. You, especially if you're young, you don't really think about why someone might be doing that, and you just kind of feel bad. Got a lot of weird comments. I mean, I could talk about... Should I talk about the geoscientists? Okay. When I was young on YouTube, I made a video about crows. I was talking about how smart crows are, because they are very smart. You should look it up. They're very intelligent creatures, and it's very fascinating. But I have his comment almost word for word memorized in my head. I don't know what I thought of it at the time. I don't even know if I even thought of it at the time, or even thought it was very interesting. But at the time, he said something like, he said the scientific name for crows, and he says the scientific name for crows, and he says, yes, they're very intelligent. Your assertions are very... A cat wants to get in. A cat is interrupting my story to get in. 1 sec. Okay, so he talks about... He said, I remember he said, and he said it in like quotations, he said, my remarks are very right on. And he said very clearly, he said, I am an old geoscientist. An old like, it's so specific. He couldn't just say, I'm a geoscientist, or I'm a scientist. I'm an old geoscientist. And his comments devolved, because he left 3 different comments on my video about crows. And the first one was just him saying, oh, my remarks are right on. People were very confused about my accent as well. My accent is an Irish accent. There might be some Americanisms, some Englishisms, but it's an Irish accent, it's a Dublin accent. And the reason there might be some confusing Americanisms sometimes, or Englishisms, is because in Ireland we don't have a lot of Irish TV. In Ireland you grow up on American and English TV as well. You know? And I didn't just grow up on TV like I'm talking about. I grew up on the internet, so I also kind of... My speech is a weird combination of, you know, an Irish accent, weird Americanisms, weird Englishisms, and sometimes weird internetisms, I suppose you could say. But anyways, that's that. But a lot of people in the comments were expressing confusion over what my accent was. But geoscientist man, he felt very confident about what my accent was. He said, this one's accent is an upper class Scot. An upper class Scot. Which is so interesting, like an upper class Scottish person, I suppose. Maybe that means something else, but that's so funny that an Irish person's accent to geoscientist by was an upper class Scot. And then it devolved even more rapidly. And I'm just gonna drop what my channel name was, because, you know, I don't think there's any videos even up there anymore, but I think it kind of adds to the hilarity of this last comment, because I remember it very clearly. He says, crayon vlogger, you are so hot, will you marry me? Like, it's also quite sad to think about this old geoscientist man fixating on this child. Because I was young. I don't even know if I was even a teenager. I think I was a tween. And we can laugh at it now, but like he was making the moves on old Crayon Vlogger, wasn't he? That's no good. But none. It's not like he ever went and private messaged me or anything. He just made a bunch of weird comments on my video and somehow thought that would go somewhere. So that's something. Right, what was I talking about? I've gone off into a rant about geoscientists, man. I was talking about... Okay, so I was talking about how the internet was a safe space for me. And then I talked about the not so safe parts. Because, you know, I don't wanna pretend like it was perfect. You know, in a lot of ways things have gotten a lot better. Like, I feel like minors on the internet, because I was a minor on the internet, minors on the internet, they are more aware of like taking care of themselves and that they are a minor, and they put that on their profiles, like they're very level-headed about it. And like, but when I was that age, and I'm sure other people were like this, like when I hear people say stuff like, "Oh, be careful, there's pedophiles on the internet, everyone is an old man and they want to take you away to their special house," or whatever. And it's just like, haha, well, the internet is my funny meme palace, and you grown-ups, you just don't get it. You don't get my funny meme palace. Which I'm glad today's youth don't seem to see it that way. It is a funny meme palace, granted, they know that, but they also know it's a funny meme palace that they should, you know, treat with caution. You know, it's just one wrong Spider-Man and pregnant Elsa video until things go wrong, and they know that. And I didn't know that. Well, good thing we didn't have Spider-Man and pregnant Elsa back then, because God, would I be able to handle that at that age? Would I be able to handle Spider-Man and pregnant Elsa at that age? I don't think I would, you know? Gen Z, like, much stronger than me. I think I'm, like, just on the cusp of being a millennial in Gen Z, by the way. But I think I identify more with, like, the kind of stuff millennials say. Like, I could call myself Gen Z and that would, like, be valid. Like, but I don't think I am Gen Z. Like, culturally, I don't feel that. Maybe Ireland is just, like, a few years behind everyone else. That's probably it. But now that I've talked about, like, the downsides of the internet when I was young, I want to talk a bit about the upsides. It was a meme palace. It was a place I could go to relax. I looked up a lot about neurodivergent stuff. I looked up a lot about being autistic. I looked up a lot about social skills. I looked up a lot of LGBT stuff as well, because I didn't really understand who I was, but at that age, but I did know that I was different. You know, I did know I was not straight. Had an inkling that I was not cis as well. I looked up that. It was a great resource to figure out all the stuff nobody else would just tell me about. It was a wonderful resource, and it was just full of weird people like me. And the internet has been somewhat gentrified in that way, in that it's no longer just for weirdos. Normal people use it. Normal people use the internet, and they outnumber the weirdos now, because everybody has, like, it's normal to use the internet now. And that's fine, that's great. Like, it's a wonderful tool. But that kind of takes it away from me a little bit. Because the kind of things that become memes as well, they're more accessible. Some of them anyways, not all of them, but they're more accessible and they get burnt out more fast because, like, it's not just like a group of weirdos sharing them with each other, very slowly spreading. It is everyone who has a phone. And another thing that about the early internet, it's not the early internet, I'm talking like 2007 to maybe 2013. I would call that's the era I'm talking about, which, depending on how you look at it, is not early, but this is the era of the internet I'm talking about. Just on the cusp of when people were starting to get smartphones and that. Like, this is the laptop era, I would call it, because laptops, like people have laptops and other cheap ways to access the internet, but not so ubiquitous that everyone's on the internet. Oh God, what was I saying? I'm only 24, and I keep forgetting what I was gonna say. Right, so what I was gonna talk about is just the political landscape of the internet. Because maybe it was, but like I didn't perceive it as a very political place when I was younger. Like, there were scumbags, there were trolls, there were people saying gay like it was an insult, autistic like it was an insult. That was rampant. Absolutely, it was rampant. But it never felt politically motivated. It never felt politically motivated. The big thing back then was atheism. That was the big thing for people on the internet. It was atheism. And then you noticed a change when all the atheist channels suddenly became anti-feminist channels. Like, Thunderfoot went through a huge change with that, particularly. The thing is, I never liked Thunderfoot. I always had a weird sense about him. And sometimes when I think about what a scumbag he turned out to be, like, making these anti-feminist terrible videos, sometimes I want to be like, haha, I knew he was bad. Maybe he was bad, I don't know. I just didn't like Thunderfoot. Just personally, I just didn't like him, and now I definitely don't like him. But it wasn't very political, the internet. It was kind of just whatever. There wasn't as clear a divide between the left wing and the right wing on the internet yet. Now, I feel like that sort of defines the modern internet experience. Like, it's very easy to tell, usually, if someone sees themselves more as left wing or right wing, and just by what they say, like, it's a huge cultural split. And that just didn't exist as much on the early internet for me, which made it feel more safe in a way. Like, I mean, obviously I hated the trolls, the harassers, the geoscientists. I hated them, but they felt like they were on their own. Like, it didn't feel like there was the alt-right. if someone was trolling me, it never felt like that was a part of something more than just them trolling me. And I don't know how much of this is perception. Maybe there was political things happening on the internet at that age. Maybe I just didn't see that because I was young. But there wasn't as a big a political thing to it. I felt safe in that to just kind of exist. Like, a big part of my early internet experience was this YouTuber called Dan Brown, and he kind of introduced me to left-wing politics. You know, he made loads of videos about kind of just normal sort of liberal sort of stuff that liberals talk about and left-wing people talk about, which aren't the same. Like, I think Dan Brown, like, in that period of his life was someone we would call liberal, but in any appearances that he's made since, he's very clearly leftist, not liberal, if the distinction matters to you in that capacity. But he introduced me to left-wing politics, and there was a sense, and if you watch some of Dan Brown's old videos, there was a sense that, you know, yeah, sure, there are trolls, there are scumbags, but this is the internet. You know, they're just sad people who are on their own. They're not organized. We're gonna come together with the internet. We're gonna usher in this new age where people are understanding and empathetic of each other. We're gonna usher it in. This people who say these bigoted things on the internet, you know, and if you were there, like, it really felt like that. It was just it's just random people saying bigoted things sometimes, and the big picture on the internet was, you know, people using the technology to do amazing things. Like, that was the big takeaway from the internet. And if you watch Dan Brown's old videos, you can very see that. You can see that's what people thought. That's another reason why, even though the internet was perhaps less safe back then, it felt more safe. It felt more safe because it felt like we were actually changing. Internet in that era is a feeling of agency that the current internet just does not provide. It simply does not feel like that anymore because we've been let down by the internet. Because we thought the internet was going to usher in enlightenment. We thought the internet was going to make people more empathetic. And all the internet ended up doing was really highlight the cultural split between people on the left and the right, and more generally people who, you know, see, I don't want to say people on the right are like these terrible people that just want to cause misery, because although they kind of act like it, I don't think that's necessarily it. Like a lot of them genuinely think that that's like gonna make the world a better place, because they've been lied to, or because there is they are genuinely ostracized by society because everyone is genuinely ostracized by society in such and such a way. But instead of taking that out in the right place, in a place that makes sense, they take it out on minorities, they take it out on vulnerable groups of people. That's very sad. It's very sad. I do not think, unfortunately, that leftists are always better in that regard. Because, like, although I'd say our politics are definitely better, it doesn't mean, like, a lot of, and this ties back in with social media, a lot of people who are leftists, like, they just care about whatever is quote unquote the right opinion to have. They don't care about, like, what is the most empathetic thing we could be doing, what is the most productive thing we can be doing. They just care about whatever opinion everybody else is saying is right, and that's a big thing on social media. And that's very sad. Because, like, people get, like a lot of dogmatism, because it doesn't prioritize what's the most empathetic thing to say, what's the most kind thing to say, what's the most affirming of humanity thing to say. It's what's the most angry thing to say, what's the most emotional thing to say. Like, emotion is good, actually, like, I don't want to say that, like, not even the most emotional thing to say, what is just instigative thing to say? Because that's what social media is all about. It's all about provoking that reaction, getting people to share things, you know. It's not about kindness, it's not about affirming humanity, and that's another thing I just hate about social media. It doesn't feel pro-human, pro-humanity. Even people whose politics I agree with, whose politics are what is going to be better for me, are what is going to make my life better, can go about them in a way that shows no empathy and no care. And that's really sad, because it's like you end up feeling like those people don't actually care about you. They just care. They just say they care about you because they think that's what's going to get them the most likes, the most retweets, the most clout. And that's a hot take. Like, obviously that's a hot take. That's coming from my personal experience. Obviously not everyone on the internet who says they believe in something doesn't actually believe it and just wants to do it for the clout. Obviously, but you do get that sense sometimes. And I know you get that sense because, like, that trans guy, going back to that, saying that thing, like, maybe he does genuinely believe that, like, but he still said it in a way that is very, like, it's an inaccessible way to say it, because he said it with a lot of sarcasm, it makes you just feel put down to read it. As an autistic person, you understand that is, like, hard to read. For some people, illegible. It's provocative. It's provocative, and, like, also this kind of thing that people do where they kind of hold a minority group to strange standards. You know, you see this a lot. Like, with trans women. Like, there's a few cases I've seen on the internet where trans women, like, are just cancelled at a drop of a hat. Like, people seem so keen to cancel them, and I'm sure this is with other minority groups as well. Like, obviously ContraPoints is the big example here. Like, I don't agree with everything ContraPoint says, but does she deserve to be cancelled for some of the stuff she says? I don't think so. I don't think she deserved to be cancelled, no. But people are so keen, they're so ready to tear someone down. It's like, especially if they're minority, and they don't realise that, like, it doesn't excuse bigotry, never ever, but minority groups, they're dealing with a lot more than what privileged people are dealing with. So you need to hold privileged people to a higher standard, really, because they're the people that have the resources for it. You know, trans people, we deal with a lot of mental illness, we deal with a lot of poverty, a lot of discrimination. We deal with gender dysphoria. Many of us have to go into debt just to relieve that, and it's just very sad. Like, I do sense in some people, in some communities, a keenness to just tear down other minority groups, sometimes the same minority group, like, just a keenness. And I feel like now, see, I can't tell what that lad was thinking. Like I said, it might be genuine. I'm pretty sure it is genuine, like, but was that a factor? Because it very well could have been. It very well could have been a factor. Ooh, that's very dark. Well, we're gonna even that out. So when he was saying that stuff about trans men, like, I don't know. It's like, does he really care about that? Or does he not? It's hard to know. It's hard to know what people do care about on the internet. But that's where we are in 2021. We have social media that doesn't work for me. It might work for some people, but it certainly doesn't work for me. Now, I think talking about the early internet and my experiences therein was probably a good kind of path to take this. Because a lot of my early internet experiences are a lot more funny than my late internet experiences. My recent experiences, they're not as fun. So now I just gotta colour the sky, and hopefully that won't take too long, because I feel like I'm kind of running out of stuff to say. That's another thing that I want to think about in relation to this not podcast. Like, if I feel like I'm running out of stuff to say, should I just end it even though I'm not finished the drawing? or is part of the appeal of draw and talk the fact that I have to keep going until the drawing is done? Does that add an extra layer of enjoyment? Because right now I'm just gonna keep going until the drawing's done. I don't know any different. Or would you prefer that I kind of just say whatever I want to say, and when I feel like it's done, I just end the video there? Or do you like the idea that I just keep talking, keep yammering on, even if I have no clue what I'm talking about, until draw and talk is over? Because the thing is, sometimes I have like a really great idea of something to talk about, and I feel like my opinion is so nuanced, and it's like I've thought about it a lot, and there are some topics that I really feel that way about, I feel really passionately about. And yeah, I feel somewhat passionately about like the sort of the way people on the internet just seem, in my eyes sometimes, like they just want the clout and they don't actually care about the things they say. But I also don't feel very qualified to talk about that. And that's why I try to avoid saying anything that's too black and white about it, that's too putting a stop to it and leaving it at that, that's too rigid and not open to change, because I don't think I know enough about that, especially since I've just taken to being off social media entirely. Like, this is coming from the perspective of someone that is not social media for the most part anymore. Oh, I forgot to give him the little thing. So I don't feel as strongly about that, but there are some topics I feel very strongly about, and I don't want to talk about them right now, because it's like I need to psych myself up to talk about them. But I'm really glad to have a platform to finally talk about those things. But the problem is, it's also a platform where I might talk about things that maybe I don't feel as strongly about, and maybe someone else feels really strongly about them. Maybe they find my video and they're like, "You're wrong." So I gotta be careful about that, because I don't want to come off as someone that thinks they're right all the time, because I'm not. It's just my personal opinion on this show, and some of them I feel like are better informed than others. I do wonder if anyone else has ever done a show like this before, like where they just draw something and they talk, and maybe what they talk about is only tangentially related. Like, I feel like maybe some people have live stream stuff like that, but I wonder. It's very interesting. It's very, Drawn Talk's very reflective of what my comfort zone is. Because this is nothing but comfort zone. I mean, I'm obviously out of my comfort zone a little bit, because like, I'm talking about things that I'm not always 100% confident about. I feel like this needs to be more yellow. But it is very indicative of my comfort zone, because this is like my comfort zone with drawing. Drawing is my comfort zone. It's the thing I've been doing my whole life that I feel confident about. Like, I'm not the best artist in the world, and I know that, but I also feel like really happy with where my art is. Like, it's not the best in the world, but it's absolutely serviceable to accurately express any ideas that I want to express with art. Like, it's very rare I have an idea and I'm like, I can't actually draw that. I always feel like I know what road I need to take to draw something. So I'm staying in the comfort zone while dipping out of it a little bit. I'm really excited to see how Crash Bandicoot comes out, because I've never drawn Crash Bandicoot before. And he is a hard sucker to draw, I tell you that. And this is another good thing about Draw and Talk, is that if the topic feels like I've run out of things to say about it, I can just talk about the art. Like, I can just do that. I do wonder, like, I intend this to be sort of passive entertainment that you can put on the background and, like, turn off when you get bored of it. But it also has the option of being able to watch me draw something. I wonder how much I should talk about the drawing, because I want people to be able to listen to this while they're maybe not looking at the drawing. One thing I noticed when I was looking back on some footage I've recorded tonight is that you can kind of hear me scribbling away on the tablet, and I'm wondering if that's distracting at all. So I've asked a lot of questions, like, but please do give me feedback on what you think, because I genuinely would love some constructive criticism. I'm a sensitive boy. I will say that. I'm very sensitive to criticism, but I'm really passionate about this show, and I just really want it to be good. So as long as what you're saying is about how you want this to be good as well, I feel like I'll be able to cope with that. Because I really want this to be good. I don't feel like this episode so far has been terrible, but I feel like there's just so much room for improvement, and there's just so much that I could do with this format, and there's so many ways I could improve it and make it better. I do wonder if I'll ever be able to recover the lost episode of Draw and Talk, the one, because I think the cat episode was much better than this episode. You know, because cats is a very light topic to talk about, and the thing is, I have all those hot takes still in my brain, but like, they're on cooldown, because I've said them recently, so they're on cooldown. So you have to wait a while before I will say my cat hot takes again. It is a good topic because I really like cats. I know a lot about them. And also it's quite a light topic, but it's a topic that's quite emotional to me, so I can take it to some emotionally resonant places without getting too heavy too fast, because I don't want this to be heavy yet. I do want to use this as a place to talk about and process some emotions that I feel like would be resonant with some other people, but I don't feel like I'm ready for that yet. I I feel like I need to see how something lighter goes. And this is supposed to be the lighter thing, but I didn't realise how heavy it was. So I need to balance the idea of something heavy and then, but also like something light, something that's light enough to talk about without it actually getting too heavy. Look at this man. Look at this orange man. Yeah, that's not Kyle. An orange man, that's not Kyle. I never thought about how Crash Bandicoot is orange. I bet Kyle likes him a lot. Kyle is the other, because this YouTube channel is called The Kyle and Eris Show. You will probably meet Kyle. He is he is my brain brother, I will say. So, and if you know my art, you know who Kyle is. So I feel like it's appropriate to make a goof about him. He's really filling out, isn't he? He's really filling out. I think you can really start talking about the drawing when you start colouring it in, because I feel like it doesn't feel like just lines anymore. It feels like it's going somewhere. I wonder if people see me colour picking and think that's bad. That's a very interesting thing to think about, colour picking. Now, I don't think the way I'm doing it is bad, like, because I am picking the colour, but then I'm seeing how that colour comes out and then adjusting it for my drawing. Now, the only time colour picking I think is actually bad is when, well, maybe you're copying something like pixel for pixel or something, and you're not having any creative input for yourself. Colour picking is quite bad when you're trying to learn how to replicate colours, because you want to have your own internal sense of colours. And a great exercise is to actually get a picture and try and replicate the colours, like use your colour wheel and try and replicate the colours in the picture. And see how accurate you can get them. Because if you haven't actually built up your sense of colour, you might be surprised with how far off you can get them. So me colour picking right now, like, that might be a bit of a faux pas, because some artists might be like, oh, you're not building up your own internal sense of colour, you're colour picking. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm not building up my own internal sense of colour, but that's because I'm not drawing this to learn colour. I'm drawing this because it's fun to draw. Where's the monster? Did I delete the monster? Silly me. I need the monster. I need the can of monster. I need to colour pick from the can of monster like an absolute scrub. Like an absolute cook. Like, I'm such a cook. Fellow soy boys, fellow beta males who colour pick. You know, like, comment, subscribe. Give me 5 stars. Ring the bell. You know. Go to my NordVPN affiliate link. You absolute legends. You absolute legends. Like, what if that's the thing for some people? Like, oh, you little colour picker, yeah. It's 2:30 a.m. Like, give me a break. See, This is the kind of thing that you wouldn't have got if I stopped talking when I felt like it was appropriate to stop talking. You wouldn't have gotten this. And I need people to tell me whether or not that's something that they want to have got. Is it like, thanks, I hate it? I don't actually want to colour pick the green. You know, it's Wumpa. It's Wumpa flavoured. Look, it's a little Wumpa. It's Wumpa flavoured. So I don't actually want to colour pick that. I want it to be its own sort of thing. See, these kind of drawings, like, they can... I think an hour and a half is the ideal length, but I think this might be running up on 2 hours. 2 hours of, like... It might be, let me double check. Now this current one, I've recorded something that was like an hour, then I recorded something that was like 18 minutes, and this is like half an hour, so... Yeah, I say it's gonna be like 2 hours by the time we're done. Because I'm gonna shade this as well. I'm having fun though, I'm enjoying it. It kind of makes me feel like it might be better as a stream, but... I don't know, like nobody would watch the stream, so... Like, maybe I need to just do a few of these pre-recorded episodes and then turn it into a stream. It's really hard to know what to do with this format. It's like, I want to hear what people like about it, like, and what they don't like about it, and like if it has any value at all, really. Some more art things to talk about since I'm chatting about art. Oh, that looks pretty good. I mean, you can tell the M is kind of off kilter. It's like off center because, you know, I wasn't paying attention. I was probably talking about geoscientists. What if there's memes? Like, what if this podcast's audio-visual experience has memes? What if geoscientists is one of them? Because if I had a choice, geoscientists would be one of them. And now, because I want that to happen, geoscientists will not be one, or be like a Millhouse is not a meme sort of situation, where the joke is that it's not a meme. That looks like the Irish flag. That doesn't look like a Wumpa fruit. That looks like the Irish flag. He's drinking Guinness. That's Guinness. That's... Crash Bandicoot's getting drunk. That's not what I want to show the kids. I feel upset. Is there a Wumpa fruit? There's a Wumpa fruit. Oh no, it's orange. That's why it was off, because this is like red. And then this is orange. And then that is green. That looks a bit better. I mean, it is like the same size as Guinness, I think. Like, I don't actually drink, I don't actually know anything. Sometimes I tell people that I don't drink and they're like, wait, I thought you were Irish, and it's like, really? Really? I mean, we do have a problem with drinking as a culture in Ireland, but like, that doesn't mean all of us drink, you know? think the only thing I have to do flat colours on is these and his eyes, and then we can get on with it. Found it. I think the hardest thing to draw about Crash Bandicoot is the weird way his like neck face is connected to his body. Like, it's not very natural to draw. It's fun once you figure it out. Once you figure it out, it's fun. But as it stands, I'm not too good at it yet. Like, this isn't the best drawing of Crash Bandicoot out there. I'm sorry. If you came here for the best drawing of Crash Bandicoot, you're gonna be disappointed. Maybe, like, I mean, it's not done yet. Maybe it'll be the best drawing of Crash Bandicoot there ever is. I mean, it's subjective anyways. I mean, like, maybe it'd be the best Crash Bandicoot ever. Like, the best one. Not even the best drawn, just the best Crash Bandicoot. The best example of Crash Bandicoot that exists. And he's drinking Wumpa Fruit Monster. I had the idea that I'd like invert the Wumpa, not the Wumpa, the Monster M. And like, it would be Wumpa instead. Wumpa energy. And I just wanted to know, like, would have that been more clever than Wumpa flavored Monster? Like, it's a parody of Monster. Or is there something more significant about the idea of Monster existing in Crash's universe and Crash drinking it to get more energy to go on all the runs he's going on? That's another thing I love about Crash, is that he's like, in Crash on the Run, he's just running everywhere. He's going, and he's just kind of doing, like, he battles the evil guys, but he also goes on all these runs just to collect resources, like, just busy work. Like, he's just kind of there, like, oh, Crash, go down to the shop, get me a sandwich. And Crash is just like, whoa, I'll get you a sandwich. God, it's hard saying anything in the whoa voice. You try it. I know that was terrible, but you try it, right? Because he's orange. He's very orange. And I like that he has green eyes. Like, I didn't notice this before, but like, that's Wumpa. That's Wumpa fruit colored, right? Suits him. Like, this makes more sense to do that. Okay, and the first thing we will do anything with is this. We'll do it like that. We'll put a nice little highlight in it. The eyes are such an important part of your drawing. Like, if the eyes of your drawing are good, like, that's 90% of the work done. Like, I was originally going to have this, like, he was going to have both of them closed. But as soon as I made this one open, like, I felt like there was so much more connection with him as a character. Like, so I had to go with that. Oh, look, it's weird. It's weird seeing him like that. let's start colouring our crash, and let's start shading our crash, I mean to say. Just go over him and get roughly in who the shadows of him is. Like, you wanna really emphasize that, like, he has eye sockets, and then you go over it and then you de-emphasize the eye socket a bit, because you don't want to freak people out. Like, you don't want to make it so people are thinking, oh my god, Crash Bandicoot has an eye socket, that's horrible. If people are thinking that, then, and you're not intending them to think that, because some people draw stuff like that where they're like, I want people to think about Mario's eye socket. Like, I saw a few drawings like that when I was looking up references for this drawing, like drawings that are just like, I want you to think about Mario's eye sockets. And that's a valid artistic choice, but if you're doing that unintentionally, you gotta be careful. This is definitely like a kind of drawing where I don't want people thinking of his eye sockets. And if you come to me when this drawing is over and say, like, I'm thinking of his eye sockets, I'll be a bit upset. Like, I'd feel like I kind of failed the drawing a bit. Like, I failed to do what I wanted. Like, I wouldn't be too sad, like, because I do want there to be eye sockets, but I don't want you to think of them. Like, I want the eye socket to subtly say, oh, he has form. He can exist. Like, he has a realism to him, but it's not too realistic. I'll just kind of like gently go over this, because I'm gonna de-emphasize the eye socket, like I said. Just like, because this is like, you got your soft shading and your hard shading. Like, this is kind of just like a nice gradient that will complement the harsher kind of shading, like the hard bits that kind of show off the form. So it's just kind of like a little gradient now. But we're gonna go in and we're gonna change that, make it the hard shading. I think one thing that makes me uncomfortable is how much I talked about politics on this, because even though I'm like I haven't thought through everything that I've said, you know, I can only really speak from my own experiences, there's still gonna be people that like say I'm wrong and that I'm bad and I shouldn't have expressed any opinion at all. And I think that's another thing why I was saying, like, people are trying to have the correct opinion all the time. Like, I'm trying to get out of that. Like, obviously I want to have, like, especially if it's like something that's not to do with me. Like, I don't know, if non-binary people talk about something that really only concerns non-binary people, and like the overwhelming majority of them say, like, this is the correct behavior to have, like I'm obviously gonna follow that. But if it's something like trans men's experience, it's like, I am a trans man, so I am trans man, so I should be able to like think about think for myself on that, and that's not bad. Like, there's a difference between, like, something that concerns you and something that doesn't. And I just hope I don't speak out of turn. Like, I'm still learning. And I think that's why some people are so scared, because they don't want to get something wrong. But it's like, you're learning as well. You're going to get something wrong no matter what. And it's pretty easy to, like, just find this whatever sort of internet code and try and follow that to the letter, and hopefully nothing bad happens. But you know, you're always going to make a mistake. You're always going to screw up. But yeah, I find it hard to talk about politics. I don't really want to talk about it because I'm scared of saying something wrong. But at the same time, I do want to feel like I'm allowed to express my opinion, especially if it's about something that concerns me. I have lots of really opinions that I don't really see anywhere about stuff that concerns me as well, and it's like, I think that being heard is actually really important. Oh, now he's starting to shine. Look at him. Quite literally, I'm doing the highlights. Oh, very happy, very pleased. Very pleased with this. One thing I noticed I did here is, like, you can see it kind of shining through a bit. I kind of want to give my drawing a sense of that as well. Like, there's something shining through the ear because it's thin. It's shining through. Yeah, I like that. Oh, and yeah, I forgot about these. And I wanna there we go. Like, make it feel more like the object exists. I think another thing that's freeing is, like, you know, I don't feel like many people are gonna watch this. Maybe just my friends. Like, they might not even make it this far, which is fine, because it's kind of intended for you to just make it as far as you want into the video. But like, that's freeing because it doesn't feel like everything has to have so much weight to it. Like, it's hot takes. It's, just talk and BS while you draw Crash Bandicoot. It doesn't have to be well thought out all the time. It can be a process. Because a lot of the stuff I do music, I do art like this, and it's like meticulously crafted kind of stuff, usually. And this doesn't have to be meticulously crafted. I can do a little bit of research, I can write some notes, I can meticulously craft it if I want, but the whole idea is that it's just kind of messing. It's messing, and if something great happens, that's awesome, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be enjoyed in a lackadaisical way, and it's created in an equally lackadaisical way. Just embraces what it is. It's great. I still do wonder if anyone has done stuff like I know a lot of people stream them drawn, but do they stream themselves drawn and like just talk about stuff that isn't necessarily to do with the drawn, and that's like the point? I wonder, do people do that? Because I haven't seen that before. Like, I see people do that with video games, kind of. Like, some people stream video games and they just kind of talk about whatever. Like, Limmy kind of does that. The comedian Limmy, like, plays Euro Truck Simulator, and like he might like interact with the cars or whatever, but it's mostly just kind of interacting with chat and like just seeing what comes of that, and that's great. See, I'm not a big Twitch person, so I don't know. I'm getting excited. You get a bit of excitement before you finish a drawing because you're like, I'm so excited to see what it looks like. You spend hours staring at it in an incomplete state only to watch it become something complete. Let's give it a nice like little sheen. Go over it again with these. Like maybe this is relaxing. Like I could see somebody like listening to this like as they go to sleep. Like I know a lot of people like watch Game Grumps and stuff like that to fall asleep too. I'm not sure I'm relaxing enough for that though, so like I do have this I have one friend that says my voice is relaxing, so I don't know. Didn't expect this video to be so long. Are you even like, I'm scared because I don't actually know if you can upload videos this long if you just started your channel. That's scary. I think they got rid of that rule. I think they did. Because long form content is like necessary for the survival of YouTube at this point, I think. It does look like a weird Guinness. I don't know what it is about it, but it doesn't give me monster vibes. It gives me Guinness vibes. And I don't want Crash Bandicoot to be drinking Guinness. I'm sorry. Let's give him a bit of a highlight around here. And then we'll go and we'll give him a bit of a... Gotta be careful with dark yellow because it can come out kind of disgusting looking. Thing is, he had a belly button in like the first game. Then every installment since they got rid of the belly button, but like I'm bringing it back because like, you know, he needs a belly button. He's Crash Bandicoot. He deserves it. Like, he's worked so hard. He works so hard, and like, he needs a belly button. He deserves it. Interesting thing is the interpretation in the many drawings I've seen of these trousers. Like, some they're denim jeans, and some, like in Crash on the Run itself, they're sweatpants. You know, they got that little loop that implies that he could adjust them like sweatpants. And I originally was gonna do it as like sweatpants because it's meant to be Crash on the Run Crash. But, you know, I wanted to do the trouser chain meme as well. So, for it to be a trouser chain, it was like you kind of have to think out of the box if you want to put that on sweatpants because there's no loops to put it on. Like, can you put a trouser chain on sweatpants? Like, I'm sure there is a way. Like, would he, like, what if, like, he has like a special loop just on his sweatpants to put it on? Like, as a lover of sweatpants and trouser chains, that sounds like heaven. Like, I relate to Crash Bandicoot so much. I really do. Like, so much. Oh, he's coming out good. He's coming out good. This needs more highlights. Like, it's a lot flatter than I wanted, but hopefully some highlights around here make it feel a bit less flat. Because this is fur, so I'm allowed to treat it like fur. Okay. I've just got nothing to say, really. I'm. Should I force myself to say things when I don't have anything to say? Is this like commentary? It shouldn't be commentary. Is it some grey area between commentary and just distracting yourself with something while you talk about something else? Because that's what it's supposed to be. And then it's got a nice little wumpa sort of colour to it. The colour design philosophy in Crash, I've gotten a lot more appreciation for it in the process of doing this. Like how he's subtly coloured like a wumpa through. Like that's interesting. My boyfriend knows a lot more about Crash lore than me. And I was considering looking up some stuff about Crash lore to really have more to say during this, but I'm not him. Maybe we should have an episode where he comes on and he talks about Crash lore. That would be great. I was thinking of letting my friends and my partner guest star in this, but I have to see what they think about these solo episodes first. I'm really scared they're not gonna like them. They're gonna like these solo episodes. I think that's it. I think we finished him. Let's get these away. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I'm missing something. There's just needs more highlights. That's all it is. Just have a little. Oh, wrong one. Just have a little one going down here, so just because it's the way I draw hair, because it's fur. Give it a bit of chaos. Maybe not these as much, but I'm not too happy with how this. I mean, I like it. I think it's decent. But yeah, that helps a lot. Oh yes, there's something much more right about that. Yes, because the saturation helps with kind of the icky sort of yellow tone. There we go. I think that's done. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Drawn Talk. Please let me know what you think about it, and don't be mean to me. Bye bye.